I am extremely grateful to Jerry and Esther, although I guess I need to tell Esther later, Abraham, for bringing this message and opening this vortex to this information.
We're all in this together, and they feel that way about you. Jerry and Esther bumped into some new friends last evening. And when they got back to the room, Esther said, they're just thanking us all over the place for the benefit that we are to them. And they have no idea of the benefit that they are to us. In other words, this appreciation is felt all the way around. In other words, the power and clarity of what you are about and the summoning quality that you are about makes all of this go round. In other words, we really are all in this together. It is mutual appreciation. Yes.
Again, I'm extremely grateful. Thank you.
We are extremely grateful. Your turn.
I do see enormous benefit in the ideas and the thoughts that you're bringing forth. Earlier, someone was talking about politics. Well, I kind of want to talk about economics. And
they're the same subject.
Okay. I understand. I see enormous benefit in changing the focus of organizations. They're extremely focused on profits, getting more done, becoming efficient to the point of, segments of their own organization going out of business, having to lay people off. And at certain times in my life, I have intuitive ideas that just come to me. And this was one that came to me a few weeks ago, that really the companies and the organizations of the world are just too focused on profit, and it is really a contraction instead of an expansion.
Well, when you think in terms of law of attraction, and you realize that everything is about inclusion, there's no exclusion. This is an attraction-based universe. And then you think about the selfish nature of all consciousness. In other words, every point of consciousness, whether it's the one-celled amoeba in the ocean or a cell in your body or you as a full-blown consciousness of this physical apparatus, when you have exposure to experience that causes you to desire, that desire is asking and source is answering. So the selfish nature, which is a very good thing, of all of these different perspectives, this desire that pulses within you is what summons source and is what is at the heart of all economy. Think about what economics is anyway. Try to think back a few hundred years when people were exchanging beads and shiny objects, and what has happened to expand the economy? Has stuff been trucked in from other planets? Do you have pipelines of resources? Or has human desire expanded and made you better reapers or better honers or better sifters, better discoverers of this expanded wealth? So when you look at the heart of economy in general, you have to understand that it is individual desires that make it go. And when you look at the basis of every company, large or small, at the heart of it are individuals with individual desires. So all of those people who desire to be creators or who desire to have things, it doesn't matter how consciously aware of deliberate creating they are, when they want life improvements, then companies literally become and acquiesce and formulate in order to satisfy those desires. In other words, when you ask, it is really always given. That's what we mean when we play back with you in your political jargon about everything is really a grassroots situation, because trillions, billions of requests are granted constantly. So all organizations are, or companies are more organized structures through which the wealth flows. And if owners of these corporations or managers of them do not have a keen and personal sense in the profit nature of it, then there can be no ongoing organization that fulfills all of the needs of all of the desires of those who are participating. And so when someone who is maybe one of those receivers of some of the goods through an organization looks to the leader or the owner and condemns them for their actions, all they do is make themselves personally now out of alignment with the good that would have flowed to them through the organization. It's like Esther watching television and disapproving of the commercials, the medical commercials, and saying, Abraham, don't they know that they're just perpetuating illness? Disapproving of the hospital system or the medical system, and then us explaining to her that these medical systems have become to meet the needs of the masses whose beliefs are where they are. So everything that your society has become, and in this example, a society of organizations, some large and some small, all of it is in answer to the grassroots requests of the masses. And it all has to be understood that it is in order, you see.
Okay.
So then you say, well, aren't there ways for it to be better? And we say yes. And those like you and millions others who are having personal experiences are launching rockets of requests every single day. And so future businesses and future governments and future religions, future societies are all in the processes of becoming because of things that you are asking for. But how you benefit right now is by standing back and taking a broader stance and not condemning what is, which holds you out of alignment with reaping the benefit that could be there right now for you. Esther said one day, they were having built some wooden walkways. When it rains in Texas, it really rains, and they were wanting to get up out of the mud. And so what they couldn't pave, they built wooden walkways, and it took a lot of dollars and a lot of man hours to build these little wooden paths around their home. And it was a very hot summer day, and Esther was sitting inside drinking something very cool, and she looked out and saw the workers who were out there in the sunshine and in the heat building these walkways. And she felt guilty. Guilty that her desire was causing them to have that experience in comparison with the experience that she was having. So she went outside and apologized to them. And two of them stood up and looked her squarely in the eye and said, "Hey, man, we appreciate the work." And it sort of startled Esther. In other words, she had forgotten that her desire had set into motion something that was a perfect match to what they believed would give them what they needed to satisfy the desires that they held. In other words, Esther doesn't get to decide what's good for anybody but Esther, you see. And her trying to take responsibility for what's happening to anybody other than Esther gets her out of balance every single time. You sort of want to step back and just trust that many askers that are being answered, that the universe is figuring out ways to give every single one of you every single thing you've ever asked for in the way and to the degree that you are willing to allow your good to flow. It has always been that way, and it always will be that way. And you're not ever going to be able to orchestrate some form of government or some form of economy that's going to make somebody who's not ready to allow it get something that they're not ready to allow. And in like manner, you will never be able to deprive somebody of something that they want and deserve either.
Okay.
It's all exactly right. Doesn't that feel good? It's exactly right and improving every century or two. No, every moment. Every moment. Yes.
You've spoken a lot about health, and I did write down just the topic of health of individuals. Process for healing.
Problem with healing is it puts emphasis upon what's wrong, slows down the process.
So just forget about it.
Well, that's easier said than done, isn't it? In other words, if you could distract yourself from the illness then you could reclaim the ground that you were standing on before the illness. But the ground that you were standing on before the illness was still a resistant place that was on its way to illness. So you not only now have to reclaim the place before the manifestation of the resistance, but you have to step further into less resistance in order to stop the progress of the illness. That was really good. Did you get that? In other words, you have resistance going on, and resistance is what is disallowing the wellness. And so once the wellness is disallowed and the manifestation of the illness is in place, now you can't help but notice the illness. Now, the benefit of illness occurring is that stronger desire for wellness is born out of that. So there can be actually positive benefits to getting sick. There are those who get sick in the early days of their life only to discover a passion for wellness, that once they are able to ride the rocket of their desire for wellness, now they live much more healthy lives than they would have if they hadn't got sick to begin with and launched that powerful clarity rocket of desire for wellness. Far, far, far too much is made of the idea of illness. And so rather than saying, I will be one who heals my illness, we would say, instead, I am one who encourages my wellness. I'm leaning toward wellness. I'm not pushing against illness. There's a war against cancer and a war against AIDS and a war against drugs and a war against all of those things because people somehow believe it's screwy, it never works, that if they push hard enough against those things they do not want, they will go away. But when you give your attention to anything not wanted, you just activate the vibration of it and hold yourself into it longer, you see. So the key to anything you don't want is to withdraw your attention from it. But we've never known anybody who could not think about something, because when you say, I'm not going to think about that, you're thinking about that. You're thinking about that thing you're not going to think about. So you have to think about something else. So you have to find something that's more appealing to think about than that. So that's when we begin talking about pivoting. We say, when you know what you don't want, you know much more clearly what you do want. So if you know what you don't want, then that helps you to identify what you do want. So turn your attention to what you do want, and then you're on the way to that. But that's easier said than done, because when you've been beating the drum of 98.6, you can't hear what's being broadcast on 101. And so that's why we're now saying that you can get to wherever you want to be from wherever you are if you just take it in bite-sized pieces. And that's why we're saying, if you let your desire not be for health, but be for feeling good right now, and you keep letting that be your dominant intent, to feel as good as I can feel right now, no matter how bad that might be, to feel as good as I can feel right now. I want to find the thought that feels the best that I have access to. And if that's your continuing mantra, I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to make the best of it. It sucks, but I'm still going to make the best of it. It could be a whole lot better, but I don't have access to a whole lot better, so I'm going to make the best of this. And if you are determined to make the best of this, you're going to move over here. And then as you're still determined to make the best of this, you're going to move over here. And before you know it, you're wherever you want to be on any topic. So we want the journey from sickness to wellness to be the journey from fear to more security, and then from a feeling of hope to more belief. We want it to be an emotional journey, not a physical journey. And that's why everyone experiences improved physical conditions. In other words, somebody offers something to them that makes them feel better about their physical condition. It might be a voodoo doll. It might be a chicken tied around your neck. It might be a procedure. It might be a pill. It might be going to a spa. It might be this technique or this technique. Every time healing occurs, every time a reclaiming of wellness occurs from a place of illness, every single time what has happened is something happened that made you look at it in a way that made you feel better, and therefore release the resistance, which was the only thing that was keeping you from full wellness to begin with. We would change our vocabulary. Instead of saying, I'm sick today, we would say, I have an epidemic of resistance going on within me that is a byproduct of the negative thoughts that I've been thinking. Instead of saying, I'm hoping for healing, we would say, I'm reaching for better feeling thoughts with the belief that the better feeling thought will produce a vibration that will allow the wellness that would be there if I was not beating the drum of negativity. Rather than saying, I'm hoping for an improved condition, we would say, I'm hoping for a thought of relief.